Okay, good evening and welcome everyone back to fractalu.com. We have thousands of people who see this video every week, and our curriculum is expanding beautifully. We have an exciting guest tonight. Patrick Botte is with us. Say hi. Hi, Patrick.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Yeah.
And as you know, Patrick is the very experienced programmer and sacrocranial expert, biofeedback expert, who's done really all 5 of our breakthrough biofeedback applications, which he will be talking about in some depth, with a gorgeous set of over 100 visuals that Patrick has prepared for this evening. In fact, I need to make this intro brief because Patrick has so much to share. It's all wonderful. But just to say that, you know, when we first developed the concepts of heart coherence years ago, and then I met Patrick and realized the depth of his background around heart rate variability and his professional work with not just sacrocranial practitioners and sacrocranial practitioners professional groups, but also Patrick has a background with the tomatis science, where the frequencies you hear can be used as therapy, and the meaning of that, which applies then audio feedback cues to the various sacrocranial, heart, HRV, and breath harmonics. Patrick was a pioneer helping me with my invention of the discovery of the mathematics for how to measure heart coherence. And then Patrick got right on board with us developing the brainwave app, flameinmind.com, which Patrick has done amazing work with. He's really full-time on these biofeedback apps, and Patrick became a very in-depth expert, if I may say, in iOS and apps for iPhone, iPad. In a very short time. I must say that his talent as a programmer has been fabulous, and the support we're providing is amazing, mostly with Patrick's help. So remember, what we're talking about tonight is HRV, heart rate variability and breath control, with iThrive.com. That's ITHRVE.com. We'll put these links in here again. And then the iThrive main app, which does overnight sleep analysis. Patrick is going to show you example screens and how the heart harmonics are analyzed. And then there's iThrive Chakras, where we take the key frequencies and show with some science evidence of which chakra, which gland in the body is being triggered by the frequency key signature of your HRV, heart rate variability, and pulse analysis. And then we have the iThrive Stress Analysis app, which Patrick will be talking about, the power factor, how we analyze stress with the phase shift between the pressure wave, that what Patrick will call the PPG, the pressure wave in your pulse, versus the timing of the electrical peak of the pulse. So the electrical peak of the pulse, if it's in phase with the pressure wave, which in electric theory is called power factor, which is simply resonance, indicates stress. That if that's out of phase, you're literally beside yourself. So that's the iThrive Stress app. And then Patrick will be talking about our brainwave app, flameinmind.com, the world's most powerful bliss meditation brainwave biofeedback app, which with Patrick and I have recently added to the binaural beats option, which can be used to trigger the brainwave, the world's most potent, really, we believe, binaural beat sound trigger for bliss meditation, which can be used with the Flame in Mind brainwave app, or very inexpensively now, we offer the separate app for the binaural beat sound called Flame in Sound, which you can purchase very inexpensively on the App Store as well, for separate use from the brainwave app or use in synergy with. And all of this is based on our core science, which is that the power spectra related to golden mean ratio and phase conjugation, when the frequency signatures are tuned, right left hemisphere 180 degrees out of phase, for example, producing what's called phase conjugate charge implosion, literally pine cones kissing noses, both in the brainwave frequencies and in the binaural beat frequencies, all of which Patrick has become very, very expert and knowledgeable at. And then we've applied in the flameinmind.com app the ability to measure life force in the weak capacitive signature. You can literally measure the life force in a room and biologic architecture by measuring the weak capacitive coupled low frequencies of 0 to about 60 hertz, where you can see the Schumann harmonics in a tree, for example, or in a room, to quantify the sacred space and measure electrical pollution in that way. Plus, we've now added full EKG coherence analysis between two people for empathy training, literally Tantra empathy training available in Flame and Mindful EKG Coherence. So there's a lot of fun to be had with our 5 biofeedback apps. We'll put more of the links in the window. And without further ado, then I'm going to turn this over to Patrick, who's prepared an amazing slideshow for you. And he really starts out with understanding the wave mechanics behind our biofeedback apps. So again, thank you for coming, Patrick. It's all yours.
Thank you, Dan. Well, a lot of things you just explained right now, and it will be a little bit short to go to all these things together during this session. And so, in fact, there are now, I'm receiving a lot of questions about the app, and all these questions are related about waves, about the waves are interacting with our body, and also what are the kind of ratio we are using to make the analysis of the heart rate and try to define coherence. And I thought that it would be nice if we could explain a little bit more what are waves and what are these all these ratio we are playing with. And that's what I will mainly explain today in this session. Okay, so I have to find back. Well, okay.
I put a bunch of links in the chat window.
Yes, okay, thank you, Dan. So as Dan has explained, and you see there is a short preview of all the things we can do with our app. With iDrive, here we can measure the heart rate, the coherence, the different waves which are inside the body. We can, as Dan explained, we have also a small app which is displaying the resonance with the chakra. I will explain it, how we do it today. And also here the flame in, well, maybe I can zoom in a little bit.
Yes, and you can drag, yes.
This flame in mind here, which is analyzing brainwave. And I will explain today what are the waves, what are the ratio of that we are using and why. So that's, well, let's begin. Oh, and I have two, yes, okay. In fact, life and health is waving. And when you are looking at HRV of two different persons, you see the top curve is a very young and a very healthy person. And you see there is a big variability in the HRV. And the lower part here is from an older person which is not healthy. And you see it's quite flat. So life is really a wave which is waving. And if I take the second curve, so the older person here, which was on the top part of the screen, the recording when we begin the recording, and on the lower part of the screen, it's after an hour session of cranial-sacral practice. And you see he's recovering a lot of variability in his HRV spectrum. So this is really when everything is fixed, it's not living. And the more you will have wave moving inside your body, the better your health will be.
What Patrick is referring to is a wave inside a wave waving, a Dardick's kind of term, which refers to embedding, harmonic inclusiveness, and fractal, which simply means if your heart rate is not changing a lot, you're in trouble.
Yes. I will talk a little bit more about it in the next slide. And so the quality, the shape, that, well, in fact, the fractality, all the things that Dan just said are really what is very important for the waves inside your body. And when you feel stress, your vitality is decreasing. And so I will talk a little bit more about music ratio and also fear ratio, so the golden ratio, and I will explain a little bit more. First of all, I think that everybody knows that our body is working like an hologram. So you can find in every part of the body the complete body And the proof is that you cannot produce a sound that your ear could not catch. So if you have a part of the spectrum which is missing in your ear, it's not possible for you to reproduce a sound. It was discovered in 1958 by a French doctor, which is called Tomatis, and I will show you more about him in the next slide. In fact, if we make a sound analysis, a voice analysis, I'm sorry, of different person, you can see that there are big difference from one person to another, but also big difference related to stress. When you're stressed, your voice is changing. And here on the top curve, you see it's filled with a lot of different frequencies, lower frequency on the left, high frequency on the right. And you see that the spectrum is filled with a lot of frequency. It's an old person, but very healthy person. And the lower curve is a curve from a young guy, which is passing exam in the university. And he's very stressed, and you see a lot of frequencies here are missing. And in fact, a part of the PDF is missing, but I will explain. Okay. In fact, you can hear sounds in two different ways. The first way is from external sound. So somebody is talking to you, so your ear catching the sound of his voice. But you can also catch the sound from inside your body. When you're talking and recording your voice and you play it back, you will get the difference between what you feel is your voice and what you hear from the playback. And in fact, it's because there are two ways to catch the information. One from the outside, which is coming to the tympanum here, and then through small x going to the internal ear, which is here. But you can also, as your skull is a resonant chamber, you can also get the sound, your own sound, from inside. And in fact, what the French doctor Tomatis found that you can make a hearing test from what you're hearing from outside and what you're hearing from inside. And you will get two curves like this. Normally there is a red curve which is missing in the PDF file. I don't know why, which is just below.
Conversion error, unfortunately.
Yes,
go ahead.
Yes, but well, maybe I can show you. You see, there are you will get two curves, one red and one blue. And I go back.
Maybe yeah, you can zoom in a little if you
Yeah. Okay. Yes, thank you then. And so you will get, if you make some recording, some hearing test, you will get some kind of I will zoom in. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. You see, from lower frequency to high frequency, left and right ears, you see you can get different shape of hearing test. The blue curve is the sound that you get from outside. And the red curve is the sound that you get from inside of your head. And
would you call that bone conduction?
Yes, this is a bone connection, because the internal part of the ear, in which there are a lot of small hairs, I can show you here. You see there are small, in this part, which is some kind of spiral, and there are a lot of small hairs, and these hairs are moving with the sounds. And in fact, when we are making an hearing test, we are placing a normal headset on the ears to listen to the external sound, and we place a special transducer on the bone at the lower part of your ear. So just here, not the lower part, but the back part of your ear. I'm sorry. And so you get two curves, like I just show you here. And in fact, from these two curves, we will get a lot of information. And the distance between the two curves, if the red one is below or above the blue one, we can get information about how the person is reacting to the external world. So how he's entering in communication, if he's protecting himself or not, and if he's very open to the other or not. And there are a lot of information that we can get from these curves.
Like armoring in autism, when you armor yourself, setting a barrier. Yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, there is a relationship between the different part of the body and the different frequency of the spectrum. And you see here, normally when you're when you have a good accuracy in your ears, you will have, well, let's say the lower frequency, you hear less than in the middle part of the curve, and you hear again less in the upper part of the curve. And the middle part of the curve, which is here, is related to communication. So this is the voice. This is the main part of the voice. So you will not be disturbed when everything is okay. You will not be disturbed with lower frequency if the big truck is coming in on the road, and you will not be very disturbed also with children yelling in the school and crying. I'm sorry, yelling. Okay. Sorry for my English. Sometimes it's not easy. And so you can see there is a relationship between the different frequency. Here, the high frequency, which are on the top of the body, and low frequency in the lower part of the body. So we can also make a relationship with the missing frequencies, which are appearing in the voice analysis, which is here, and also. I'm sorry. And also in the hearing test, which is here. Another way to see how the body is expressing vitality, but how the body is expressing frequency and waves, is to use a special device which was built by Dr. Korakov, which is called a GDV device, and it's a Kirlian photography. And from this Kirlian photography, I just can show you. In fact, you take pictures of, I can zoom a little bit, of all your fingers. And each part of each fingers, you see there are different parts for each finger, will be related to a part of the body. And then we can draw directly the complete aura, or the light emission from the body. And what is very interesting, again, like the hearing test that I just showed you, is that we can see two different things. In fact, with this device, we can measure the physical part and the emotional part. And you see, most of the times, the physical part is quite well, but in the emotional part, there are a lot of missing frequencies and a lot of missing emissions. And it can change in a few seconds if you receive a bad phone call or things like that. It's really incredible to see. And you see here, another display of the missing frequency, mostly related to the emotional pictures. Well, now let's talk a little bit to understand much easier what we are talking about. Let's talk about frequency. In fact, we are talking about wave and frequencies. When we are talking about waves and frequency, we have a very short vision of what it could be, because there are frequencies which can be very, very, very low. And so the time between two alternates of the frequency could be a very, very long time. It can be a year, it can be 1,000 years in the cosmos. And so it's very important to know that frequency is not only radio frequency, radar frequency, but it can also be a wave which takes a very, very long time to come back again. And also, what it's important to know is that, in fact, when you are taking a molecule, you will have a very high frequency. And then when you place these molecules together to make an organelle, you will have a little bit lower frequency. And when you go to a cell, you again have a lower frequency. Well, I can zoom in, it's in French, but okay. You see, it's the more you will go to a big system and a big organized system, the more the main frequency will be a low frequency. So for us, we have a very, very big and organized systems. We have very low frequency inside our body. We have very high frequency for the cells, and then less high frequency for organs, and then again less high frequency for parasympathetic systems, and so it's very important to know that all these waves are, in fact, that's what Dan explained about Vindatic. You see that there are waves which are in waves, and again in waves, and again in waves, and all these waves are interacting together. So the lower frequency waves are in a way connected to a much high frequency wave, and again to much high frequency wave. And it's going both ways. In fact, if you increase the lower wave, so this one that I try to highlight here, you will increase also the other one. So you see here it's a little bit flat, but if you increase the lower frequency wave, you will also increase the much higher frequency waves. And it's going both ways. If you are not very healthy, you will have quite a flat frequency waves. But if you are working on the organ, which is not healthy, and you recover energy in this organ, you will also recover energy in all the body. So it's going in both ways.
Yes, and what Dardick showed was that harmonic inclusiveness is always health, and when you have fewer harmonics, it's unhealth, as Patrick said. And the problem of getting that embedding perfect is not solved by octaves, it is solved by golden ratio, which is fractality or embedding or nesting or super looping perfected.
Okay, thank you, Dan. And so that's the reason why I'm trying now to explain a little bit more about just music ratio and fear ratio. So let's get back to the wave. Well, I think that everybody knows what is fear ratio, but just to explain in a few words, it's just a ratio between two different sides. And this ratio is 1.68. And it leads to a spiral and to all the things that we can see in nature, and also old monuments like Parthenon in Greece. Also, you will see in the body, it's appearing in the nature, in the trees, and also in our lung and in our body. You see that our lung is exactly the same as a tree, but in upside down. And also in the body, you see every part of the body is linked to golden ratio. You see here in the arm, one is one size and the other part of the arm is another size. And everything is linked to golden ratio. Now, just so that was phi, the golden number. And now let's talk just a little bit about music and how they define the different ratio that make good music, sound, and how they define it. In fact, when you take a string and you divide this, you put your finger in the middle of the string, you will have another sound, which is here two times the frequency of the string. If you hear again and again and again, you see, and so you will have a lot of difference in the sound that you will get. And in fact, it's also explained like harmonics. If you take a note here, which is called the fundamental, and you take the double frequency, you will have the second harmonic, which will be the same musical note, but 1 octave or above. And then 3 times, and then 4 times, and then 5 times. And again, you can see here the relationship between the harmonics and the place where you change the position of the string. Another way to show it, you see the fundamental will be the red wave here, and then the second harmonic will be the blue, the third will be the green. You see, like that, it's another way to display it. And in fact, when you have a note coming from a musical instrument, which is, it's something like this. The wave is not, it's not a perfect sine wave. It's a wave with a lot of harmonics coming, and all these harmonics are here different kind of waves, which are all embedded in the main wave. And so when you take a keyboard and you make the relationship between the different notes and the different frequencies, well, that's what you get. Well, in fact, what is important to see is that when you take, for example, in music, a very simple chord, so the C chord, and maybe there are some, it seems there are some questions. Short wave shape, self-similar. Yes, okay. Why do some people? Okay, it's coming about the 432. Okay, okay. I will talk about it. It's just coming in a few minutes. Well, in fact, so if we have a C chord in music, it's C, E, and G. So in French, Do, Mi, Sol. It's another way to say these music notes. So you will have the C here, which is a fundamental, and then you will have the second harmonic, which is again a C, and then you will get a G, and again a C, and again and then the E note. So on the keyboard it will be like this. And in fact, that's our, like now that we will answer the question. We have a tuning fork which is 440 Hertz, and this tuning fork, well, was defined a long time ago now, and it's used everywhere in the world because it's much easier to play the same tuning on the different instrument and different places that they're playing music. But in fact, these, well, I just saw it, so we can do the same thing that we just did before, but with the table of the 440 Hertz, and you see the frequency. So if we take a C here of this frequency, we will get a G and an E with different frequency. I just noticed. But Dan explained that in fact, everything is linked in nature by golden ratio, and he has shown the importance of the golden ratio. And this golden ratio doesn't look to appear at all in music. So that's a big question, and we will try to answer to it. In fact, the scale that Dan is using, each step of the stair is related to the previous one with the golden number, 1.68. And so you will get here a scale of the different frequencies and which are appearing in the down scale. And if we take the 440 Hertz table and we are trying to make a link with the scale that Dan is defined, we will get some perfect correspondence. You see that these three notes here have perfect correspondence with the frequencies that Dan is defined. But there is a missing part here. There are two frequencies just linked by golden number which are not appearing. So I have investigated a little bit. In fact, there are, since a long time ago, a lot of different tuning forks. And these tuning forks were with completely different tuning, with different places in the world, with different musicians. And our tuning fork, which is the one that appeared in the previous phones, when you take off the phone, you will hear the 450 Hertz sound. But I was very interested with Mozart fork, Handel fork, and also Berlioz fork. Well, Mozart and Handel, because as I've worked a lot with the waves which are inside the body, and I found on the web a beautiful video which was showing the waves that's appearing in Mozart music, and it was exactly the same. Really, exactly. When I saw it, I said, "It's the same thing as what I'm extracting in HRV." So I began to look a little bit about why Mozart chose this tuning fork. And so this is the 440 Hertz. And then when we take, you see that I've placed different colors. Like that it would be easier. As there are two, you remember we are using the green colors for the 450 Hertz. And we have a correspondence with this green part. But the yellow part and the blue part are missing. And if we choose the Berlioz and the Mozart tuning fork, so one at, just you see, 422 and 449. We got the yellow part. So we got one of the steps which was missing. And about 432 Hertz, well, again, maybe we can have an answer, because the 432 Hertz that everybody is talking about is the missing step, which is the blue one. So maybe, well, that's my interpretation, maybe it's better, it could be better, because when you are looking at down scale, in the part of the spectrum that of the sound that we can hear, we have more, you see, the window here is larger than the one with the 440 Hertz. And this could be a reason why this tuning looks better for us, because there are more fittings with the original sound of the world. Okay. Well, sometimes you are talking about also about 522. It seems that it's the same as 44.
Yeah, so to summarize what Patrick was saying, just that when he refers to my scale, Dan's scale, it's exact golden ratio powers of Planck length and time produce the harmonics cascade we showed that fit photosynthesis and all the cool stuff like brainwaves. And so when you overlay that on an octave 12-2 system, he's saying that the number of notes that overlay the useful harmonics seem to be a little bit more with 432, but there's many issues there. But you can produce a pure implosion sound, and that's what we do with flame and sound.
Okay, thank you, Dan. So now what about phi, the golden number in music? We have seen if we take a major chord of C, so we will get 3 notes, C, E, and G. If we take the table, well, let's take the 440 Hertz table, it would be easier. So if you take the C here, you go to the E, which is a higher frequency, you go to a G, which is again more higher frequency. And then you have a chord, a major chord. But if you do it in the other way, what do you do? What do you get? You get the E here. So if you take the C here, which is the green part of Dan's scale here, and you go backwards on your keyboard to the E of the previous octave, you will get the blue line, the blue reference here, the blue frequency here. And again, you will get the G frequency, which is the yellow one. So you go one step forward on the scale with phi ratio. So this is another way that to make the link between music and phi, because when we are talking about music, most of the time we are talking about fifth, third, and but never about fifth ratio. We are talking in music about harmonics also, but it's always on the same way. It's up to the right of the keyboard. But if we go to the left of the keyboard, then we get a correspondence with the scale that Dan has defined. Well, rapidly, something else also. Sometimes you're talking about number 10, and it's very interesting when you take here different frequencies going up one octave from one octave from one octave. So you multiply by a 2 factor. And if you multiply all these frequencies by 1.618, and you go down 4 octaves, you will get to 10 factor. And so 10 factor, sometimes it's a quantum jump. Well, so it can be a relationship here too. And in fact, well, this is what we are getting in our Flaming Mind app, which is an app which is related to brainwave. And so what we are looking, when we are catching the raw data of the brainwave, we are looking mainly on 3 points. The first one is the symmetry between the left and right hemisphere. But the other 2 points, it's the relationship between the different frequencies which are appearing, maybe I can zoom a little bit, which are appearing in the spectrum. And we are looking at the ratio between these frequencies. And when we have phi ratio or octave ratio, we have different meaning. So when we have phi ratio, it's much more related to when you're in a bliss state. And if you have octave ratio, it's more related to, tell me then, I don't know the English word. Dan?
Sorry, Patrick.
Yeah, when you have in brainwave, when you have octave ratio, it's more to telepathy.
It's clear that, you know, when we got golden mean ratio in brainwaves, people often report feelings of bliss, euphoria. They're obviously imploding charge. We had a few examples which were exciting in Italy when we had serious octave cascades. And in those cases, people talked about telepathy and that kind of thing.
Okay,
but
okay.
the octave, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Go on.
Well, but the octave ratio, we haven't seen that often, but it appears that a cubic lattice, which is what an octave ratio is more charge stasis, like you literally form a crystal, whereas a golden ratio, you're literally imploding charge, which is much more associated with empathy and bliss. So golden ratio, empathy, bliss. Octave is charge stability and telepathy.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Yes, it was really related. So we are looking on the ratio between the different parts of the spectrum coming from the brainwave. Okay, and then we are plotting on the app the history of the record you just made, and we are displaying in the different part if we get golden ratio, if we get octave ratio, if we get well, maybe I can enlarge it a little bit here. You see octave ratio, phi ratio, octave ratio, and also when you have a beautiful symmetry, the more it is yellow here, the more you will have a beautiful symmetry between the two hemispheres of the brain. So this is the most important thing that we are extracting from brainwave. And so we get a spectrum here, and we are analyzing all the peaks which are coming and which are the ratio between the different peaks here. So, like I previously said about the frequency of the different part of the body, the waves which are in the waves, and in fact we have defined some kind of sound that can be healthy for the body, and inflaming mind and inflaming sound. We have created special sound which can interact and enter in resonance with the body. You remember what I show you, the different part of the body which are in resonance with different frequencies. And this is what Tomatis, the French doctor, found. It's really there is a beautiful relationship between the different parts, but between the different bones and the frequency, but also between the different organs. So each part of the frequency spectrum will be related to some organs or some part of the skeleton. I think that now I have to change the presentation to the other one. Okay.
Well, while Patrick is doing that, just to point out the parallel, so octaves versus golden ratio in brain waves, the octave was charge isolation, the golden ratio was charge embedding or implosion or touch permission. We found that in brain waves, with exact parallel to later when you see the EKG work, the power spectra, when you have the 1.0 key harmonic in the heart, it's more stuck in your head, whereas golden ratio harmonic bass tuning in your heart is more empathy, touchy-feely. So touch permissiveness is related to golden ratio, whereas octaves are related to charge isolation and making a membrane.
Okay, thank you, Dan. And so we have tried to make a relationship with the different part of the body, and you know, different part of the body are also linked to chakra. And well, this is one of the display of different chakra we have in the body. And in fact, we have found a very beautiful relationship between the frequency, between the music notes and the chakra, because we found exactly the same result and different other searcher. Tony Serron and Michel Laroche here are using tuning forks for healing, and in fact they are using the same music notes with their tuning forks that the notes we have seen for the different chakra. And also another thing is that remember that Dan, as a long time ago, see with a special analysis of the EKG, that you can get some kind of emotional balance and also a coherence peak which is appearing. And maybe I can zoom in a little bit here. And the size of the biggest the peak will be, the higher coherence you will have in your body. And the position of the peak is very important too. In fact, if the position of the peak is around 1, you will be completely in your head. And if you go to 0.6, you will be in your heart. All the people who tested the device have answered a few questions, and when they were in 0.6, they say, "Oh, I feel I'm in my heart," and yeah, when they were in 1, they feel, well, I am thinking in my head. And so, in fact, the 0.6 frequency in this kind of analysis is corresponding to a G square, G sharp, I'm sorry. And G sharp is the heart. So we have the correspondence with this analysis of Dan, with Michel Laroche tuning forks, and also another correspondence with Nogier. And Nogier, you know, Nogier was the guy who discovered acupuncture in the ears. And he made a lot of experiment about the frequencies of the body also. And for him, the ara frequency, so this part of the frequency, the second chakra, is an E note. So we have 3 other searchers who found exactly the same thing as we did. And so that's how we are making our analysis and how we are making the correspondence with the frequency we get in the heart with the different part, in resonance with the different part of the body. And this is a simple app which is displaying, unfortunately, with the PDF here, I cannot show it in real time, but maybe I can give you some kind of reference. Yes, I will paste here. So this is a link when you can see it moving in real time on the web. And so while the HRV here, so this is the HRV. So the heart rate is increasing, decreasing, increasing, decreasing. And then you can see on the different part of the body, which part of the body are entering in resonance with the frequency generated by the HRV. Now, some explanation about binaural beats, because in Flame in Mind and Flame in Sound, we are using binaural beats. First of all, rapidly, what's a binaural beat? In fact, when you have two very close frequencies, well, let's say for example, 440 Hertz and 440.1 Hertz. When you have these two frequencies which are mixed together, you will get what they call in music a beat. And the beat means that the sound will go up and go down every 0.1 Hertz, which is the difference between the two frequencies. And here in this case, it will be 6 times per minute. And 6 times per minute will be a 10-second movement in the wave. So you will hear the sound coming, increasing, going back, decreasing, disappearing, and again, every 10 seconds, if you introduce this small difference in the frequencies. And in fact, binaural beat, if you make the sound through a big speaker, you will hear the sound, which is going up and down with a specific frequency. But if you place a headset on your ears, it's very difficult to hear it, because your brain cannot make the difference between the two frequencies. Well, in fact, when I say your brain cannot make the difference, in fact, you cannot catch the difference, but it's very, very powerful for your brain. Because
the physics seems to be that the super low frequency, which is the heterodyne or beat rate difference between the two, that interference pattern is happening only inside the liquids inside your head. And of course, that super low frequency then is a pressure wave in those liquids, or phonon, can trigger very low frequency phenomena that you couldn't normally hear, and you can actually feel it moving around in your head. And the reason Patrick is mentioning 0.1 hertz, 10 beats is related to the Mayer wave, which Patrick will get to shortly. So it's very important heterodyne.
Yeah, okay. And so it's when you see Tibetan boil, in fact, there is the same thing. If you take a Tibetan boil and you make a recording with a stereo mic, you will see that there is a 180 degrees shift between the left and the right mic. You see that when the wave is going up in the left part, it's going down on the right part. So the Tibetan boil are well generated specific healing frequencies, but I think that the most important thing is that it's going also from left to right. So it's also giving you some kind of binaural beat, which is very, very interesting. And so
it's amazing that the Tibetan bowl would be 180 out of phase between the two hemispheres, meaning a conjugator. Fascinating.
Yes, sure. But that's well, that's what in fact we are using in a sound device also. Yeah. Well, so if you take back the golden scale that Dan as defined, and that he is using with Therapy, but with a lot of different frequencies, and we can have a look on the different frequencies in the scale, and maybe I can zoom in a little bit. Well, in fact, you will see that it's very, very interesting, because as I told before, you will catch most of what you found in the universe. So if you take here the frequency, you have Schumann frequency, which is the frequency of the Earth. And then also what's very interesting is that the Schumann frequency, it's about 8 Hertz, it's just the difference between alpha and theta waves of the brain. So when you go, so it's very important to see all these relationships. And when you go down to the scale, here it's cycles per second. So it's much easier to understand for very low frequency than in hertz. And you see here, you have the frequency of the respiration, the breathing of a child, the frequency of the breathing of an adult. You get a cranial-sacral frequency, which is used by osteopath for healing sessions. Then another, which is the main and the most important frequency, I think, for us, is also a cranial-sacral frequency, which is about 6 cycles per minute. And in fact, this is a frequency which is sketched by the hands by the osteopath for healing sessions. And there have been proved now that there is a relationship between what the osteopath get with their hand and a pressure wave which is appearing inside the body. And this pressure wave was discovered by a doctor which is called Mayer. So it's called the Mayer wave. And this is a pressure variation which you can feel everywhere in the body. And then when you go down in the frequency, you go to 3, 2, 1 cycle per minute. And then this is another thing which is catch also by osteopath, which are the frequency of the emptiness of the ventricle of the brain. And the ventricle of the brain can show you. So these are in blue, the ventricle of the brain. There are a few different kind of ventricles, and these ventricles are filled of LCR liquid, which normally will go to the spinal cord here. And they should normally be, well, there is a wave of emptiness and filling of these ventricles, which is about 2 times per minute, 1 time per minute, it depends. And so this is again related to specific frequency that we have here.
Patrick, it would be important, so just so people correlate there, that in the center column where the 5.8 cycles per minute, that equals about 6, which in frequency is about 0.1 hertz, the 0.096. So if it would be good to label those scales per minute versus cycles per second. But you see that those columns all line up so beautifully with the golden ratio implosive cascade, and that 0.1 hertz. That 0.1 hertz Meyer wave is like probably one of the most important frequencies of the body, the natural resonance of the blood, which I learned from Patrick actually. And I think it's cool where you've talked about the ventricle drain frequencies there, because that's so close to Bentoff's measuring the low frequencies in the ventricle ringing in the brain and the Kundalini circuit. We have a table on that, so I really appreciate that, Patrick. I think it's great.
It's coming then. It's coming. Okay, so. And so what I tried to do that, well, Dan on his device, Terrify, is using a lot of the frequency which are on the scale we just discussed a few minutes ago. But I was wondering if we could also only use part of the frequencies of this golden scale, but according to what we can catch with our ear, so which is this part of the spectrum here. And so, well, I already mentioned this one. And so what we have done is to try to see if there is an influence between the sound we are generating and what we get in the heart rate. So you see here, this is heart rate which is moving, somebody which is very healthy, and also it's a 2-minute display, so it's about it's also related to the 0.1 hertz frequency. But in fact, what is very interesting now with the new device that we are using that is that we can catch the heart rate from the a light sensor, and this light sensor is measuring the light which is passing through your earlobes or your finger, and each time there is a beat of your heart, there is a flow inside your vessels, which is changing the opacity of your finger, and so we get something, some kind of pulse like this. You see, each time there is a heartbeat, we get this kind of shape of the measurement with the light passing through the finger. And well, in fact, we really don't know, but there are so many, you will see that so many very little vessels in the body, and that we can catch almost everywhere this movement of pressure which is inside the body. And so this is what we get when we are using this kind of light sensor. And so each time there is a pulse in the blood, you see, you get an up down, but also what you see, because it's also a movement of the tissue. In fact, when the heart beats, it push the blood in the vessel, and when there is more blood in the vessel, in fact, the size of the vessel is increasing, and so there is a small movement in the tissues around the vessel, and this small movement induce a shift in the baseline. So instead of having each time we have a pulse something which is higher or a little bit lower than the previous one, but with a fixed baseline here, we also have the pressure movement which is appearing because of the movement of the tissue, which is inducing a shift in the baseline. And so that's the famous 0.1 Hertz wave that we are getting here. So it's a wave on the wave. And the first wave is the pulse wave, and then appearing a wave on the wave. And so you see, most of the time there is a relationship. There is a relationship between the HRV, which is here in red, and the wave, the pressure wave. But it's not always the case. And so, well, what we can do is to make an analysis of all these blood pulses, the movement in the light, and we will get the blue line here. You see,
it should be mentioned, Patrick.
Yes?
It should be mentioned that that it's called a finger plethysmogram, typically light penetration. And as Patrick taught me, that there's only certain devices that can see that. So, light penetration is the best way to see the pulse if you want that pressure wave. And so the pulse sensor on the finger or ear clip can do that, but the chest strap cannot. But I didn't mean to interrupt you, Patrick. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, yeah, but it's important, Dan. Thank you. Yes, sure. Yeah, in fact, if you want to make, well, there are different kind of ways to get heart rate, but the PPG sensor, so the light sensor, is very interesting because it's giving us two kinds of information. We can get the time between two beats, which will give us the heart rate, but also this small movement in pressure. So we have the heart rate, and we have also a pressure wave, which is appearing. And so in blue here, you will get the pressure wave, which is extracted from the orange curve, mathematically. And so what we have done with with the sound wave we are producing on Flame in Mind and Flame in Sound is trying to see if there is an influence while sending specific sound to the heart rate in the body. And I just explained that it's very important, the 0.1 hertz beat, but also the lower frequency of the emptiness of the ventricles. And the app, well, can give you the beat of 0.1 hertz, but can also give you the beat of a lower beat frequency, which is related to the emptiness of ventricles. And what is very, very important is that it can also produce a 100 degrees shift between the two ears, so between the two hemispheres of the brain. Or maybe then you can explain a little bit better than me why this shift.
Yes, well, originally, when the two lasers met, opposing lasers, to phase conjugate and create neg entropy time reversal, the two lasers had to meet like 180 degrees out of phase from opposing direction, which is the way pine cones can kiss noses accurately in a mirror, origin of phase conjugation. So that 180 degrees out of phase makes the pine cones converge very accurately, kiss noses, and that's the optimization of phase conjugation and therefore neg entropy, time reversal, and all the good stuff. So well known in lasers. Now we've applied it sonically in Flame and Sound. Yes.
Okay. And so, and this app can do, in fact, well, it seems there is something, oh no, it's okay. It's okay. So what we are doing, we are creating this special binaural sound, and we are looking if there is an influence on the heart rate, on HRV and on PPG. And you see here, this is a recording of, well, in green, this is the sound which is moving from one ear to the other at about, I think it's 0.1 hertz. 2-minute display, yes, it's 0.1 hertz here. And you see that even if you don't catch it, you will, when you are quite relaxed, your heart rate will automatically enter in resonance with this binaural sound which is generated. And you will see that, so in green, this is the sound wave which is generated, the frequency of the sound wave. In red, this is HRV, maybe I can increase a little bit. In red, it's HRV, and in blue, it's PPG. And so you see some kind of entertainment created by the sound, the binaural sound.
You can see that the peaks are in phase. That's the beauty. So you're actually, your body phase locked, your heart phase locked with the sound. And the fact that Patrick measured that, I consider to be genius. It's beautiful, Patrick.
Yeah. And this is another recording of the same thing. So from a different person. So when you're quite relaxed and you're waiting for a couple of minutes, you can catch this entertainment from the sound wave. And this is also what I just show here. It's a recording which is made with Flame in Sound part of the app, but there is also an option which is in Flame in Mind that can, you see here in pink, this is the sound wave, and again HRV, but here it's only HRV which can be displayed, but there is a resonance, sorry, a resonance which is appering in your HRV. So it's very important in entrainment. Thank you, Dan.
Phase lock.
Yes, phase lock, yes. In fact, it's very, very important to get this increase in HRV, and to get different frequencies in your heartbeat, because each, as I mentioned in the chakra explanation, in fact, all the different parts of your body will enter in resonance with a different frequency of your heartbeat. And so if you stay still, sitting most time of the day, you will have your heartbeat will stay close to a fixed frequency. And so only a part of your body will enter in resonance with the frequency generated by your heart. And so you will not entertain give some kind of energy, some kind of resonance to the other part of your body. So that's the reason why it's very, very important to move and to try to make movement in your heart rate, which will be an octave in an octave difference. Like that, you can play all the music notes that your body needs. And so, the app, just rapidly to mention how the app is working. In fact, there are two different things that you can do with this app. Use therapy-like sound, or you can also select chakra sound. And these chakra sound are defined regarding to all the things that I explained today. So free ratio, but also octave ratio, the correspondence between the different part of the body and the tuning forks and things like that. And so you will have an opportunity also to select your own frequency and to select manually if you want a shift between left and right or not. The frequency, you have access to everything. You can do all the things that you want. You see different example of selection that have been done. This is the left, what will be in the left ear and what will be in the right ear. And so,
Patrick?
Yes, Dan.
So, Billy Weisberg, just backing up a frame or two, when you showed that the heart rate variability, the heart rate red curve was entrained with the binaural beat curve, would that then also apply to the breath? Would you say, was the breathing going to be entrained?
Yes. Well, in fact, it's related. When you breathe in, you increase your heart rate. When you breathe out, you decrease your heart rate. And the more you will breathe slowly and deeply, the more you will have a big difference in heart rate variability.
So the HRV curve, in effect, is your breathing curve. And of course, if we had a respirometer measuring the chest breath directly, we should see a phase lock with that beautiful red HRV curve as well.
Yes. Also, yes. Now, how much time do we still have?
Well, it's about 9:16. So you know, we usually finish by 10 with some time for questions, but you have at least a half hour more, as you wish. Go ahead, please.
Okay, fine. Okay. No, it would be great. So, okay. Okay, so, and you see, you can select different part of your body you want to work on. There are a lot of different options in it, and most of the sensitive people which are using the app say, "Oh, I feel it is working in this part of my body and the other part of my body." Well, and here also something that we have noticed, which is quite interesting, is that if we are using this kind of binaural sound in a specific kind of copper pyramid, which we design, it seems that there is a much more poorer effect. And in fact, this pyramid was designed with a very special shape, which was discovered by a Russian. And you see, this is a picture of what's all the kind of figures we can place in this pyramid. And in fact, all the sphere which are here are related to golden ratio. So it's a kind
Important to
of
mention, Patrick, just that's Tufan Guven who's with us,
yes, yes,
and
it's too fun.
that's Patrick's designed Russian copper pyramid, which is very powerful. Please continue. Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. But I told Tufan at the beginning that I have a beautiful picture of him. Yes. Okay. And so you see all the triangles, all the sphere, everything is related to golden ratio. And so it seems well quite a very like to concentrate. It's fractal. It's well. It's very very the feeling you have when you're inside is very deep and much stronger that when you listen also the sound, the binaural sound. And but in fact, well, the shape of the pyramid is very important, but also the size. And when you make the relationship to the music, in fact, if you take a triangle and you hit the triangle, you will get a sound. But if you change the size of the triangle, you will get another sound. So the pyramid here that we have built is, well, we have done exactly the same thing as while musicians are making a triangle or building a triangle. So we have took the size of the pyramid, which is related directly to be in resonance with one of these frequencies. So the size of the pyramid. So each time we build a pyramid, if we want a bigger one, we cannot just simply change a measurement, but we have to make a calculation to know exactly which will be the next site on this scale here.
So not only is the ratio correct, but the scaling is correct to embed
Yes.
in Planck ratio. Yes.
Yes. Yes. And so, well, just about well what we discussed a few minutes ago, also about breathing. So a lot of people are asking, well, how to breathe, what's the impact of breathing, and so I will explain a little bit the information I have about this. In fact, when you go to well, let's say some kind of meditative states, and there are different ways to go to, well, a well state of being or bliss, or in fact you can have very slow breath, but like almost no breath at all, or you have deep and low frequency sine breath. You can have deep and low frequency square breath, or you can have also caduce breath. And that's what Dan talked a few minutes ago about Bentov. What Bentov did, it placed people in deep meditating states in some kind of capacitor, and so he was measuring the capacitance movement of the body. And it's very interesting because what he found that when these people were very, very still, with even no breath at all and no movement at all in the body, it appears some kind of standing waves inside the body. And this, well, in fact, he explained that this standing wave was created by was created inside the aorta. When you have the heart here, and then you have the aorta, which is going down and splitting in two parts when this vessel, the blood vessel, arrive at the two legs. And here, in fact, it's like a wall, because the blood flux is going down, but then it can hit this separation between the two legs. And there is another, a wave coming up from this encounter with this wall. And what Benton says is that, you see, I have explained before, you remember the wave, the half wave. And so this standing wave is appearing here, and he's measuring it. In this experiment, and he get, well, I can zoom in on it, and he get this kind of wave here, which is appearing in his capacitor measurement. And you see, this is 1 second. So between this and this, it's about 4 or 5 seconds. So again, we are coming to the same kind of frequency of 0.1 hertz. And
the Mayer wave.
The Mayer wave, yes, but here it's it's a capacitive wave. And yes,
Bentov called it capacitive accelerometrics. I worked on that with him, actually. It was a genius for his day because the technology didn't exist to do it. It was so sensitive you could feel the mechanical thrust of the heartbeat by just using the body to modulate the dielectric of the plates of a capacitor. In practice, you're sitting in a chair and there's just a little piece of aluminum foil above your head and below your seat, and then you measure the capacitive resonance with an amplifier. And in fact was able to measure the ventricle liquids and all the stuff Patrick's talking about. I'm delighted that Patrick pursued this. You can see many of those graphics at goldenmean.info/Kundalini. Please continue.
Yeah. So you see, we found the same kind of frequency with different kind of sensor and everywhere. But what is very interesting, what Bentov says, is that this frequency is inducing something in the brain. And it's some kind of magnetic field which is induced in the brain, coming from the standing wave which is in the aorta. And this frequency which is appearing in the brain, in fact, will have a big impact on the ventricles. You remember that I show you the ventricles of the brain, because the ventricles of the brain are placed here in the middle of the brain, and quite close you will see to when you see the sensitive part which are displayed on the different external part of the brain, you can see that in fact you have the pleasure sensor, which is just near the top part of the ventricle, which enter in resonance with the standing wave coming from the aorta. And probably that could explain why when you are in this kind of state, you feel very fine and you get the same kind of hormones.
Patrick, would you explain why you call it the ventricle drain frequencies as opposed to the ventricle resonance or ventricle ringing? I like the word.
Well, in fact, that what happened here, it's a lot of things to say and difficult for me to summarize. But in fact, these ventricles are filled with liquids, and there are specific cells which are creating these liquids. And so about 1 or 2 times per minute, when everything is fine, there is a new LCR which is produced, and also old LCR which has gone away. But that's like a pressure movement. So, and this pressure movement is sending the liquid through your spine. And
did you say LCR? LCR different?
Yes, cephalorachidine liquid.
Cerebrospinal fluid, we might say
Yes,
also.
it's
Yes.
spinal fluid. Yes, yes.
Yes, so that it's draining.
It's if, yes, yes, here it's in French. I'm sorry. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Uh, yes, and so in fact, that when you're stressed and when you don't feel very well, and some, in fact, the emptiness is not going well, and so you can get a lot of troubles if the emptiness of the well, if this pump is not working fine. Let's say like this, and
It's interesting because we have people with headaches using Therify for help, and I think headache is related to that pressure not releasing and pumping probably. And if we induce those frequencies, it could
yeah.
help perhaps.
Yes, yes, and it's well, osteopath can do it and launch this pump again, and
Yes.
and it's closely linked to a sympathetic system also. When you release this part which is fixed, most of the time you have a very big response in the sympathetic systems also.
So if you had the right frequencies to pump that, which you're saying was in phase to the conjugate frequencies, which are part of Therify or part of the sacrocranial system, remember that Bentov is, and we are saying that this is integral to the mechanism of bliss and Kundalini, that all these low frequencies are pumping in an embedded way. Exactly.
Yeah, again, the more you will work on low frequency, the more you will entertain all the other frequency which is related to. So normally if you release a fixed part in the frequency spectrum of the body, the whole body will be will feel better. So that as it
So
is
notice
going off weight, yeah.
the very definition of perfect relaxation then is the perfect embedding that produces conjugate harmonic inclusiveness or fractality, the very essence of relaxation.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, so the famous sign breath. Well, in fact, well, breathing is very important. When you're born, you make a big inspiration, and when you die, expiration. So, but what is very interesting again is try to breathe on this low frequency, which is the 0.1 hertz or 6 times per minute, and which is mostly used in almost up talking about coherence, because the way that when you are breathing at this kind of frequency, you enter in resonance with a frequency your body like very much, and so you entertain all your frequencies inside your body, and it's very very good for your health. And so also the low, well, this the 0.1 hertz or here in yellow, but you can go also to very very slow breath. And I'm talking about 1 per minute or 2 per minute, and you will see. And yogi, most of the yogi can do this kind of breath, and this is very interesting. And I will show you why. Maybe I can. Well, just a second. I will come back to it. Okay. I will show you. In fact, these are 4 minutes of recording of HRV here on the top, and this is the breath here in blue. And we start with the first part of the recording, the first minute of the recording, and you see this is a normal breath. So you have a small movement in HRV, and you have each time you breathe in, you have an increase in HRV. Each time you breathe out, you have a decrease in HRV. And then I'm inducing on the left part here, I will zoom in. I'm inducing a zero point 0.1 hertz breath. And when I'm inducing this 0.1 hertz breath, what's happening? There is a big increase. I'm going back to the previous one. You see there is 0.1 hertz breath is here. I'm inducing a very big increase in HRV, which is quite fine. But I still get the relationship between I breathe in, HRV, my heartbeat is increasing. I breathe out, HRV is decreasing. And now let's go to the very small breath. So about 1 or 2 breaths per minute. And then what you can see is that there is a reversal in HRV. So instead of having heart rate which is increasing when you're breathing, you will get exactly the opposite. So you see here, this top of the breath is related to this part, and here it's inverted. So when you go to this yogi breathing at very, very slow frequency, there is some reversal in the shape of HRV.
It's important to say that when Patrick says HRV here, he simply means heart rate. The heart rate up and down is locked into phase with the breathing, but what he's saying is it's locked in phase either on the up or down cycle, depending on the short wave or the long wave breath.
Okay. And again, rapidly about caduceus breath. Well, in fact, when you take a pendulum, you can draw a sine wave which is related to the movement of the pendulum. But each time the pendulum arrives at the end and will come back, you have a point of rest, a small point of rest. And in fact, what you're making a caduceus breath, all these points of rest at the end of the caduceus breath will be superposed. And that's probably what will lead also to this special state that you get when you make a beautiful caduceus breath related to golden ratio. And so this is another way of breathing.
So to say that the still point at the end, called the conjugate or compression point, is where all the waves converge at once, which is both perfect stillness and perfect harmonic inclusiveness.
Yes. Thank you, Dan. Well, as we have talked about, well, unfortunately, we can not explain all the things that can be done with all the app, but as I've decided today to try to talk a little bit with musical ratio, phi, and things like that, just to mention that with iThrive, so the heart rate app, we can get the music from the heart, and we can plot the music from the heart. And in fact, this is a night recording analysis, and each time and each part of the night we are measuring the different music notes which are coming out from the heart. And you see these notes are here, C, C sharp, and B, with different kind of color. And we are plotting all these music notes during the night to see which notes are appearing in the different moment in different part of the night. And you can see that there are clearly, we can visualize very easily the different part of the night which are appearing. And I will show you in another way in the next slide. Because in fact, what is very important is that you probably know that there are different sleep stages. And one of the most important sleep stage is what they call the deep sleep, which is a very recovering part. And if you lose this part of the night, you will be very tired the next day. And in fact, these sleep stage, we can extract them like we extracting the musical note from the heart rate, and we can plot what was happening during the night, just again playing with different kind of ratio. Well, I will not explain all these kind of ratio. Just know that it's again frequency ratio, musical ratio, and so these are two nights, two different nights on the same person, and you see from one night to the other, it's completely different. And it's completely different related to what you eat, if you're stressed or not, the hour you eat before you go to sleep. It's really amazing.
It's important to note that deep sleep analysis is accomplished in iThrive.com, what normally costs a lot of money to do in a hospital. And getting tuned to access your deep sleep, as Patrick is saying, is so valuable. And we achieve that at iThrive.com using a chest strap for overnight sleep analysis. And I believe you're referring to 8-hour sessions of the overnight, right, Patrick?
Yes. It goes up to 8-hour session for overnight. Yes. So, and you see here comparing two different nights with one with the deep sleep part. Well, I will enlarge it a little bit. You see in the analysis, this night has a lot of deep sleep parts, so a lot of recovery for the body, and this one doesn't have any enough. You see, and so it's possible, while making this night analysis just with a polar chest strap, to get all this information about the way you're sleeping. And also,
Patrick, that previous slide, the deep sleep, the presence was indicated by VLF to HF ratio. Is that right? Is that what the graph?
Yes.
So in other words, if you had more or less VLF and more HF, then you were in deep sleep, right? Is that?
Then I don't remember exactly. It's a ratio. In fact, just to explain rapidly, when you take the HRV spectrum, in fact, you will have the different part of the spectrum. A very low frequency part, which is below 0.1 Hertz, let's say like this. A low frequency part, which is around 0.1 Hertz, and high frequency part, which is called HF. So you have VLF, LF, and HF, which is related to above 0.1 Hertz, let's say like this. And in fact, the HF is much more related to breathing. So LF is related to the Mayo waves, to the sacrocranial waves, and VLF it's more related to thermoregulation or things like that. And when we are extracting all this information from the HRV, and we are making the ratio between the very low frequency part and the high frequency part, and plotting this ratio during the night, we did this. And the VLF, and I'm sorry, the lower part of the graph, so which is in blue, I will enlarge it a little bit, is related to the part which is related to deep sleep.
So that since it's VLF over HF, and for that number to be low, then VLF is lower and HF has to be higher in amplitude, meaning presence of HF is an indicator of deep sleep, basically.
Well, you need both. You really need both, because I have tried different kind of ratio, but it is the best ratio. And in fact, we have also with the same app, and as the iPhone as an accelerometer. So we can also measure this deep sleep part with the iPhone placed on your bed, near your pillow, because there is an accelerator in the iPhone, so it can detect small movement. And when you are in the deep sleep part of the night, there is no movement at all of your body. Really, really no movement at all. And so you see here in red, this is the accelerometer response, and in white and blue here, this is the HRV analysis. And you see there is a perfect correlation between the movement which are recorded from your body and also the analysis which is made from your heart rate. And just to finish all this information, I have there is a special session of yoga which is called Yoga Nidra, and in this yoga, in fact, you lie on the floor, you don't move, you lose completely any movement of your body during about a little bit less than 1 hour. And during this time, your mind stay awake, but your body completely sleep. And I've made recording about this yoga session. And in fact, if you compare what's happening when you begin to sleep and fall in deep sleep, so this is the deep sleep recording of the, and this is the yoga nidra recording. And you see, it's exactly the same thing which is happening. Okay, but I think then if there are some questions, I think that we can go
Just to try to finish that thought, Patrick, it's so fascinating. So access to deep sleep obviously is like so important, and the fact that you built a tool to really regulate and tune and measure. Do you remember that famous episode of Star Trek, where people had lost their deep sleep on board, so suddenly everybody got grouchy, and they had to do a diagnosis to return deep sleep, otherwise the whole ship didn't work anymore. But essentially what you're saying is that, is it the presence of VLF or HF? In other words, does it mean stillness in the high frequencies or stillness in the low frequencies that's more indicative of?
No movement at all. So the
So actually, I mean, effectively, deep sleep is really access to stillness, is a sort of simplified way to.
Yes, there is no movement. You know, when you are dreaming, there are movement in the body, but when you're in this part, in deep sleep, there is no movement at all. Nothing. Just breathing.
And you see what genius Patrick did to incorporate the accelerometric into the iThrive app by placing the phone and using the accelerometer. Remember, when Bentoff discovered how to measure Kundalini, it was called capacitive accelerometrics. It's the very slight movement of the low-frequency resonances in the body. So again, I think Patrick is to be congratulated for putting this all together in the iThrive app. It's just a beautiful thing.
Okay, what I can still do is, well, I think most of the people know your website, but maybe they can also find, this is the link to one of my websites, which are we will find a lot of information regarding the different apps, also a lot of videos. I can show the link to the different apps on the store.
Yes.
So, and also, yes.
Patrick, they're asking, is it, we have your permission that tomorrow when we publish this film that we can use a link to the PDFs of your visuals here to share them?
Sure, please, yes.
So we'll put that at the Real Heart Coherence link. We'll publish that on Facebook tomorrow. Thank you. And so Patrick is, yes, Patrick just put the links for the app store for the various apps, Flame and Sound, iThrive, Flame and Mind.
And also I will place some other link. with demo, video demo of art coherence, video demo of flame in mind, so brain waves, video demo of chakra. Well, there are a lot of different links on YouTube that you can see. Because the problem here that it's very difficult to do it to show a living app. So if you with all these links, you will have access to some video which will display the app which is running, and or people using the app, and well,
and people can get a lot of those videos also linked at Patrick's main app, craniosacral-app.com.
yeah.
He put
But
in there.
yes, this is the first link that I put, I think.
Yes, and hey, Marcin Bielicki is also saying helpfully that he's made some documentary films on this as well. Thank you, Marcin, for putting that in there.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. And just in closing here, to congratulate Patrick. I mean, we had a lot of these insights years ago, but Patrick really did the work to implement them coherently to tune the body from sacrocranial, tomatis, the sound, the flame in mind brainwaves, the HRV, the pulse analysis, putting this all together to tune a body so that it's implosively blissful and healed with harmonic inclusiveness and fractality in a comprehensive, coherent suite of applications. I'm really grateful, Patrick, that you followed through to put these all together. So I want to thank you also for all this beautiful work.
Thank you. Welcome. But I think it was a little bit interesting regarding to all the questions I'm receiving by mail, and people don't easily understand the relationship between the waves, the music, the sound, and I think, well, I hope it would help all this information.
Yeah. The real theme is to understand implosion, fractality, harmonic inclusiveness, restoring centripetal force, and applying that practically to the body. And Patrick has assembled that all beautifully here. And so we'll be being in touch with all of you with support for iThrive.com and flameinmind.com. So we thank everybody who came tonight to fractalu.com, and stay in touch. We'll be putting this film online very shortly, and thousands of people see these films every week. It's amazing. So really just thanks everybody for the Theraphi team and the Patrick and the iThrive team. Blessings.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you all for
Thank you, Patrick. And Patrick is available. You can see his contact info also at flameinmind.com under contact, and at his website at cranial-sacral.
Yes, also, yeah.
So stay in touch, everybody. We'll share the film and the links tomorrow for the PDFs. Blessings.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, bye-bye.
Congratulations again, Patrick. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.